the call of Jesus to naturally share our faith should be exactly that, natural. It doesn't just happen. The Holy Spirit steps in and moves, but we're making ourselves available. It's not accidental. It's very intentional. Imagine if every single Christian on this planet was just praying for people that didn't know Jesus, was loving them well, and changed the world.
All right, we are with Kevin Harney here in the TALBOT 3000. Kevin, thanks for joining us here in Monterey, California.
Absolutely. TALBOT 3000.
I know, isn't that funny? I don't know.
Come on, that
we
sounds
needed a name.
Super cool.
We needed a name, and it's sort of fun. So we're having these conversations. Pat Gelsinger was just in, so you know Pat.
I do.
We're having these fun conversations, and we're trying to talk about different things with each person. So we're here on the Lead the Way tour. You're speaking at the event, which is, it's usually David Kinnaman and me. Yeah. But which way you want me to go?
Let's go right.
Let's go right. Okay, you're going to show me around Monterey.
Head right toward the ocean.
Head toward the ocean. That's always a good thing to do in California. But I'm excited about you talking about what is your heart passion, and that isn't around, well, reaching people. It's evangelism and more. So talk to me a little bit about, first of all, for those who don't know, when I was the interim pastor at Moody Church, we brought in you to talk about organic outreach, and it really resonated with our people there. Tell us a little bit about what that's all about.
And we call it organic outreach because we believe that the call of Jesus to naturally share our faith should be exactly that, natural. And so we use organic. We're really talking evangelism, shining the light of Jesus, sharing the love of Jesus. But we also believe that it's for every single Christian, which is what Jesus believed. And so when I came to Moody and brought a message there, as I go to different places and talk about it, it's really helping people discover how they can share their faith without freaking themselves out and without freaking other people out. Just in a natural way where people might say, I don't understand totally, I don't agree, but you are really pleasant, and I see that you mean what you're saying, and it opens the door for ongoing conversation.
Okay, now we see some approaches are sort of like, help people to see they violated like all the 10 commandments, and that they need Jesus. And again, I'm guessing where you and I are for any way that we winning people to Jesus. But this is something that's going to take place over time more intentionally. Yeah. So talk to us what that might look like. And now too, personally, but then also when you take it into a church environment as well.
Yeah. On a personal level, every one of us has relationships, friendships, acquaintances, colleagues, people at school that we know, and we want people to know Jesus. We want them to know there's a God who made them, who loves them, who actually has great things in mind for them, who's not looking to destroy them, but looking to draw them to himself. And so on a personal level, it's walking with people and living your faith, being an example, but also sharing your faith, telling your stories. And we find that if the average Christian just actually pays attention to this, prays about it, thinks about it, prepares for opportunities, God opens doors and they get to walk through them, and God does amazing things. And imagine, Ed, and I know this is your passion as well, but imagine if every single Christian on this planet was just praying for people that didn't know Jesus, was loving them well, was looking for open, natural opportunities to share their story and God's story. What would happen? It would change the world.
But here's the thing. I think this is one of the reasons why organic outreach has sold so many copies. Like, I bought a bunch of them. You make it sound like it's going to happen naturally, but it doesn't happen naturally. It's like there's an intentionality that part of what you talked about personally, and then I want you to get to the church. We haven't got there quite yet. So how do I personally build that intentionality and accountability so I actually grow in this?
Well, we've actually identified over 40 years of thinking about this, working on this globally, training leaders. We found in our personal lives and in the church context, there's 4 things that need to happen, like in the rhythm of life.
Love this.
There needs to be inspiration. Yeah. We got to be like, oh, this is important. Wait, that's right. I care about people. I want them to know Jesus. So we need to be inspired. We need to be accountable. We need to keep ourselves accountable, and other people need to say, hey, and I know you do this. You'll say to people that you work with, who are you praying for that doesn't know Jesus? Are you walking with them on this journey? You actually ask people where they're at, and then learning. We got to learn new little skills and ways to pray, ways to love, ways to share. So inspiration and accountability, learning, and then planning. What am I going to do? We actually have to say, here's what I'm going to do. So in your own life, look and say, am I reading things, thinking about things that get me fired up? Am I letting people ask me, and am I asking them, who are you praying for? Who's in your life that doesn't know Jesus? Get a few friends that you just have those conversations with, and it becomes part of the radar of your life. You're thinking about it, you're paying attention to it. And then Read some great resources. You mentioned Organic Outreach. There's 5 books in the Organic Outreach series. One is about prayer, one's about the family, one's about the church, one's about your personal outreach, and one's about how discipleship and outreach go together. But let your mind be filled with thoughts that you're learning to share your faith, and then plan what's next. What am I going to do in this week to pray for people that are far from Jesus? What am I going to do to love somebody well? And when those things are part of the rhythm of your life, it doesn't just happen. The Holy Spirit steps in and moves, but we're making ourselves available. And you're right, it's not accidental. It's very intentional.
I keep a map in my Bible and a list. I keep a map and a list. I tell pastors, they want an evangelistic church, but you can't lead what you won't live. So
Amen.
you've got to be an evangelistic pastor.
Yeah.
So I keep a map and a list. The map's my neighbors that I'm praying for. The lists are people I'm praying for. And what I found is when I'm thinking about these things, the Lord opens doors.
Yeah.
Like when my heart's open and my heart's searching, the opportunities are great before me. Now, it's interesting. Monterey is a mix of very affluent, very military, and then also, like a lot of parts in California, people struggling. People living in outside your church. I saw people living in camper vans, and some of them come to your church.
Some living in cars.
What's it been like to sort of seek to implement evangelism practices? You've been here for how many years?
15 years.
15
As the
years,
lead pastor,
one city. So talk to us about what it looks like to lead a church to engage evangelistically in a community.
So the simplest thing I could tell you is that we are absolutely committed that every 30 days until Jesus returns, every 30 days, that's the time frame, we need to focus on outreach. We need to go through that inspiration, accountability, learning, and planning. So we developed a 5-year curriculum that gives every 30 days. If somebody says, well, what do I teach them? How do we do the planning? We lay it all out. It's free online on our website, organicoutreach.org. And anyone can go there anywhere in the world and pull up this curriculum. And then it's set up, actually, it's free, and it's set up where you can just contextualize it for your own setting. So it actually says your church name or your ministry name, fill in here, fill in the date here. And then they can edit, they can make it fit their own tribe, their own context, their own city, their own denomination. And so if a pastor will commit to get the key influencers in the church every 30 days, get them together and say, let's talk about outreach. Not put it on the end of our agenda, but it is the agenda.
Right.
30 minutes to an hour, focus on that, and then you teach them in such a way that they can teach the people they influence in the church. You can transform a church. We've seen it happen all over the world.
Okay, so one of the things that stuck with our Moody Church family was, I missed them. I had a wonderful time.
Yeah.
And you did a great job. It was a super gathering. They talked about turning up the degree, turning up the temperature, not suddenly 0 to 100, 0 to 60 to use a car example. But tell us about that, because a lot of pastors are like, okay, so how do I start?
So years ago, I was thinking about how do you help people just tend to their own temperature. So I came up with this little scale, just 1 to 10 to keep it simple. 10 is sizzling hot and 1 is icy cold. 1 is, I don't like non-believers, please stay away from me. 10 is, my pillow's drenched with tears every morning because I wake up crying for the Lord, right? So we most of us live in between those. Right. So what we tell people is, your job is to turn your temperature up 1 degree. If you're a 2, your goal is to become a 3. If you're a 9, become a 10. And to quote the classic movie Spinal Tap, if you're a 10, this one has 11. And so the idea is simply this, that you look at your own life, and we've identified 5 or 6 easy ways to raise your temperature. Praying for lost people, reading the Gospels and watching the heart of Jesus for the lost. Spend time with people that are far from Jesus. So many Christians get so busy with other Christians, they no longer have time to actually hang out with non-believers. And so you've got to invite them into your life. And so you tend your temperature. And so the people that are listening to this right now say, okay, honestly, I'm a 5. I've come in the middle. Okay, what can you do this week to become a 6? Reconnect with some lost friends. Start praying in a fresh new way. Read the scriptures and grapple with what God has to say about people that are far from Jesus. And then you steward your temperature, and we actually ask our board members, we ask our staff members every 30 days, what's your temperature, 1 to 10, and what are you doing to raise it by 1 degree? Accountability. You need to do it.
Love that. When I was at staff, when I was a pastor, I would often ask, who in the last week have you shared the gospel with outside of a local church setting? Yeah. And by doing that, it sort of created an expectation and a practice that I think became really, really helpful for me. So I think that accountability really matters. So if you're a pastor, like, you hold your staff accountable, but how do you hold yourself, or who holds you accountable?
As I lead that in the church, and I still lead that at Shoreline Church, I'm accountable to share with the entire team.
Oh, okay. And so you just share with them, okay.
Publicly in that setting with the board, and also we gather every 30 days, and that includes our children's leader, our youth leader, a number of volunteers. A vice president of our board is part of that. So they're a volunteer. You can't keep them accountable. Of course you can. Yeah. Because they're leading the church. Sure. Right?
Sure. Okay, so We're driving through these neighborhoods,
Yes.
Kevin Harney, and there's rich people. These are, right now, the neighborhoods we're going to see, these are some of the richest people in the world live here.
Yep.
And also people living in their cars,
Yep.
not far from your church.
Yep.
Talked about both. How do you reach rich people
Yep.
with the good news of the gospel of Jesus Christ, who maybe think they have everything and they don't need Jesus?
Yeah. And, I'll give you the simple answer first, and that is you got to love people.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where Jesus started. What's the most important? Well, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. So people who live, so Clint Eastwood's neighborhood is the closest neighborhood to our church.
Yeah.
And it's called Tehama. He owned the land. I think for $1.5 million, you can get a piece of land, and then you have the privilege of preparing to build something.
Yeah,
So-
you took us to the restaurant there one of the
yeah,
times we were
absolutely,
here. So,
yeah.
right,
And
in
we
this
have
neighborhood.
we have many people in our church that have lived in that neighborhood or live in that neighborhood and have come to know Jesus. And right out in front of our church on Garden Road, we drove down there. I could have pointed out 8 or 10 trailers or cars where people are living in them.
Yeah.
And we're seeing those people come to our church, sometimes sitting next to the people living in Tehama. And we see those people come to Jesus.
What's making that happen? Because socioeconomic diversity is some of the most hardest diversity that's there.
Yeah. Well, at our church, every Tuesday and Thursday, we have a food pantry and a clothing closet. And every person who comes for clothes or food, we never pressure, but we offer prayer to everyone who comes for clothes or food. And Ed, 74%, that's the last count I got, 74% say yes to prayer.
Wow.
We offer 100% of people a Bible, English, Spanish. If they have a different language, we'll get them a copy. We'll offer the Bible. We don't force it. And then we have food. And not only do we have food, we say if you have a pet, we have homeless people that have pets. If you have a pet, we've got cat food, we've got dog food. If you've got kids, we've got little kids packets. We really lavish God's goodness and love. So we offer prayer, the Bible, conversation, and food and clothing. Hospitality is big. On Sunday mornings, you come to church, we're going to have rolls and donuts. We're going to have fresh cut fruit. It's no cost. Not just for Easter Sunday. So we
Fresh cut fruit. That's pretty fancy.
fresh cut. And our volunteer team that does that are some of they're a community. They love each other. It's ministry to them. And we offer learning opportunities. We offer all kinds of things. And then we teach everyone in our church how to love people well and naturally share Jesus. So most of the people that come from Tehama, they come invited by a friend. Most people come from the street. They come invited from a friend who lives on the streets and invited them in, or who's gotten off the streets, but goes and invites them in. And so it's relationships.
Fascinating. Okay, last question.
Yeah.
I'm listening. I'm a pastor at church leader. That's most of our audience. And I want to know, what do I start doing tomorrow? What would that be if I want to up my evangelistic temperature?
The first practical thing I would say, go to organicoutreach.org, register for free, and do the learning pathway.
Yeah. And I should say too, I should have pitched to your website for you.
Yeah, that's right.
Because I like it. And obviously I had you in the Moody Church. So I do think that's a natural sort of way that people engage in this evangelistic passion. Okay.
Go at your own pace, do your own thing, and you can just click through, and when you finish something, you get the satisfaction of finishing it. It goes to the next component. It's just called a learner's pathway, and you go on that pathway, and it's set up like a hike, and you got waypoints and stops and learning along the way. You can watch a short video, pray about it. It'll give you prayer direction. It'll give you a practical idea. And start there. If you want to change your church culture, I'd encourage you to get Organic Outreach for Churches, and the subtitle is Infusing Outreach in Every Part of Your Church.
That's the one we did at Moody Church.
You did. No, I remember I walked with a couple groups of leaders there talking through, and all it is it's about how do we change the culture of our church so it stays evangelistic in every area until Jesus returns, because that's the call.
Kevin Harney, thanks for joining us in Talbotron 3000.
Talbotron 3000! As much fun to say as it is to drive in.
Exactly.